The Go Idaho Podcast is hosted by Greg Langhaim and Ken Lee. In this podcast, we feature everything Idaho, including some of the most influential people in this great state. Now here's your host, Greg Langhaim.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Go Idaho Podcast. My name's Greg Langhaim and I've got Ken Lee, and today we have an incredible guest with us today, Mandi Feely. So let's just jump into this. I'll tell you a little bit about Mandi. Mandi, born and raised in Idaho, graduate from BSU.
Yep.
Go Broncos.
That's right. You've got the right shirt on today.
And the hat.
I like it. Yeah. Game day tomorrow.
I know. Yeah.
It's all sold out.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So Mandi's been in the mortgage industry for 20 plus years.
Yep. Yeah, now I feel old, but it's okay.
20 plus years, you're super involved in the community. You donate to charities, and a little fun fact, you have some sort of tie to the Mrs Idaho pageant.
Yeah, my heels have been hung up a while, but I was Mrs Idaho in 2003 and got to go to Hawaii and participate in the Mrs. America pageant, so that was an awesome opportunity for me.
Dang.
Is that
Yeah, it was fun.
Is that the term you use when you're in a pageant? Your heels have been hung up?
That's the term I use. I don't know what other ladies say when they're like retired from pageantry, you know, but my daughter is now kind of carrying the baton, so to speak, because she is Miss Idaho High School America this year.
Dang.
What?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's
okay,
so cool.
I have a question about Mrs. Idaho. All right.
Okay.
Talent shows. Is there a talent show where like you got to sing a song, you got to play a piano, or like you're like Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality where you got to play like the glasses?
I might be like a Sandra Bullock, and I would have to find a talent like playing glasses. No, I never. The pageants I participated in, I was really fortunate. My dad, when I was 14 and very awkward. I was outgoing but shy, and so my dad brought home this application for a teen pageant. It was a scholarship pageant, so you were judged on your academics, your leadership, your volunteer service, interview, which was a great opportunity for me just to learn how to talk to people and just keep eye contact and all of those things. And then it encouraged me to be involved in my community and keep my grades up. So that's how I got involved in pageants when I was young, and I won a national teen title when I was 17, so that paid for a lot. That gave me a scholarship to pay for a lot of my education at Boise State, so I graduated debt-free because of pageants.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah. So for me and my daughter going, wanting to do it as she got a little bit older, I really wanted that for her because there's not a finishing school for girls where you learn what fork to use, when you go to a fancy dinner or whatever, you're using your salad on your steak or whatever, salad fork on your steak. But, and there's, where do you learn to walk in heels and present yourself like a lady? And so for me, that's what pageantry did for me, like long term. And interviewing for jobs became easy, and learning how to get involved in my community was all because of that experience I had at such a young age. And now when Allie, my daughter, wanted to do it, I thought that's just such an awesome opportunity because it encourages community involvement and giving back. And my opinion always has been, if you want your community to be great, you have to put effort out and give of yourself in your community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's, if I taught my kids that through pageantry, which sounds very weird because they're so stereotypical, right?
I was going to ask you, I mean, what you see, it just seems like almost like dance moms in a way, but is there a little bit of that?
Yeah, so I suppose in any sport, right? As a parent, right, you could see it in any athletic event, any sports, anything that kids participate in. There's good parenting and bad parenting, and you see it in everything, right?
Yeah.
So, but for me, I have lifelong friends. I'm still in contact. You asked me about being Mrs. Idaho, and that was the last competition I did, pageant experience I had as Mrs. Idaho at Mrs. America, and I'm still friends with some of those ladies. And whatever, that was in 2003, so we're not to date myself, but that was 24 years ago. So I'm still friends with those ladies to this day, and such high quality, right? It's just such high quality people that participated because they care about the same. Our values aligned with the communities and care for our families and our children and, church and faith and all those things that Mrs. America was an opportunity for me to share, and they're all high level people,
Right.
So you are who you spend your time with, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I think, there are, in any activity, you might run across people that you might not connect with or want to have long-term relationship with. But I think overall that's all stereotypical, because what I got from it and what I hope my daughter gets from it is so valuable in our lives, just to mold us into better humans,
Today's video is sponsored by Build Social. If you are a real estate agent and you are looking to up your YouTube game and social media game, I highly recommend connecting with them right now. I use them, I have used them, and they have done wonders for my business. I know they'll do wonders for yours. All their contact information will be down below.
And you say it helped you get into your businesses and connect with people in the community and all those things. But before we get into the business part, I do have to ask one silly question.
Okay.
What was the craziest thing you've ever seen at a pageant?
Well,
and if you're not allowed to talk about it,
no. I think that the craziest part is, you've got a lot of girls in a dressing room, right? That's a lot of just nakedness in one place with a lot of people.
That's true.
Right? But really, I've seen girls literally have their zippers broken right before they go on stage and be sewn into gowns by other girls, or break a heel and need to borrow somebody else's shoes just as they're walking onto stage. That's kind of the craziest thing. A story that got told to me was at a pageant when we were at my sister was Miss Idaho Teen USA, and we were at Miss Universe in Vegas. And so we were watching Miss Universe, and the choreographer comes up and he's starting to tell the story to all the contestants as we're watching the rehearsals. And he says, the best story I have about pageants is this lady comes up and she's going to introduce herself. You know how they come up and they're like, Amanda Feely, Idaho, right?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
So she comes up, and instead of doing her spill, she comes up and she says, I had a much prettier dress than this, but somebody, done broke the zipper and walks off.
No
I was like,
way.
so it's a live show. You don't know what you're going to get. So I might not have said that, but good on her, because she had a much prettier dress, and somebody done broke the zipper. So anyway, that's a funny story, right?
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so, so you did so teen got you into it.
Yep.
Then what got you into it as Mrs. Idaho?
Well, my volunteer service was so important to me, and it is to this day. I feel like giving back to my community has made such a difference in my life. I mean, my cup's filled every time I go. Just yesterday, I was at the Idaho Food Bank with your brokerage, actually, and because they had a give back day, and I was honored to be participate with your crew and do that. But if we want our communities to continue to be amazing like it is in Idaho, and I'm born and raised here, right? I was born at St. Luke's downtown. My kids were born at St. Luke's downtown. I lived in a 30-mile radius my whole life, and I want and even as it's grown, I still want it to feel like it's felt for me, And so I think really, for me, the reason I ran for Mrs. Idaho is it opened more doors, right? If I say, hey, I'm Mandi, and I just want to make a big splash or a difference, it's funny what a crown and a banner will do to open the door for you to be able to help more organizations, right? And but with that said, I think that even after I've hung up my heels, I've put in many, many hours of volunteer service, and because there's organizations that I'm passionate about, right? Whether it's pancreatic cancer because I lost my dad to that, or because there's a 9% survival rate and somebody has to champion for a cure because they're not here to do that, or Light the Nights, and an important thing to me, my kiddos lost their aunt to it, so that's another organization. But also food scarcity in Idaho is a real thing, so Idaho Food Bank is near and dear to my heart. So being Mrs. Idaho was another, it was another platform for me to continue that community service that I just felt so critically important just in my life as a whole. And so, that's I think why I continued on. And when I went to Mrs. America, I feel like that was kind of the pinnacle of my career. So I was like, it'd be like playing, being an NFL QB and then going to play in minor leagues or something. I don't know. So I just felt like that was a good time to wrap it up.
And one thing that's true, I think, about every successful person is they want to give back. And you're so successful, and just hearing that you want to give back to the community, it means so much to anyone listening or watching, and just knowing that, you kill it in your profession, but your heart is full when you give back.
Yeah, I just have a heart of service, and we were giving closing gifts. It sounds so minimal, but we were giving closing gifts, right? We'd send them a closing gift, and you'd get a, like a whatever cutting board, right? For me, whatever. Great. Yay, I got a cutting board. That's great. But we started donating on behalf of our clients after loans closed. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a client call and say, that organization's important to me, or what you did is important to me. They don't need another cutting board, but they feel when I donate on behalf of them, because I was able to serve them and help them with their home loan, I think that they feel like they've done something good too, right? And so we just want to pay it forward, because we really do feel blessed that I've had the success and my team's had the success it's had in Idaho, just to give.
Yeah. No, you do awesome. You're always out and about, it seems like. So take me through from pageantry to lending. How did you get started? Was it something you always like had your eye on, or?
Okay. Well, no, I started at Boise State and I was a business major, and I was working, honestly, like 18, 19 years old, working at a tanning salon, right? So doing wherever you can get a job, right? You're 18 or 19 years old. So, and my high school boyfriend was like, he's freshman in college, and we dated 8 years, so he's still a very dear friend to me. But anyways, his dad was in mortgage business, right? And his dad had since retired, and he decided to get in the mortgage business. He's like, I'm not doing college. I'm done. You do college. I'll stay. And they called me and they said, hey, we have a receptionist position. And I said, okay, cool. I'm not at a tanning salon. So I just started at the front desk, and I didn't even, FHA, Federal Housing Authority. I had no idea what FHA I couldn't even spell FHA, honestly. So I don't know. So I just started at the front desk and worked my way up, really, if I'm just honest. It's just I'm kind of gritty. One of my first days, my boss brought me these pay stubs in yen. And back then, there wasn't like you could go online and check what yen to dollar was to convert a pay stub, right? That's kind of weird. So we had these folks that were buying in America. They were from America, but they worked for a company that gave them a pay stub in yen because they, worked overseas. So at any rate, he gave me this, and he gave me the Wall Street Journal. He said, go convert this in yen. And I thought, okay, from yen to dollar. So I came back and I was darn close. So he said he thought I had potential. So from there, I just kind of grew up really in the mortgage business from the time I was 20 years old. I finished my degree at Boise State, and I thought, I'm going to have a big kid job now. I'm going to go get my marketing. I'm going to get a job in marketing. But I just fell in love with the mortgage business. I just fell in love with helping homeowners and helping. The reward of homeownership is just, I think it's one of the best gifts that we can give people, because I don't know about you, but for me, when I think of security, I think of home. I think of my sanctuary. When the world's really noisy around me, I think of home. I think of that's where you go, right? That's where you feel safe and secure, and you can be just who you are and loved and cared for, right? So I feel like my job as an extension of that, I think agents have a cool job because they get to show shiny houses. I think that's cool. Mine's not as cool. The root word of mortgage is death, mortuary, right? Mortgage. But
I never thought of that.
Yeah, because it's like as long as...
You're right. I never even put that together. Wow, okay.
Because they used to have, I guess you had it till you died. I don't know. A 30-year mortgage was a long time back when they were created. So I guess that. But at any rate... it's really rewarding, especially to somebody that didn't think they could get a home, right? They'd rented a long time and didn't think they could. So, I started in a background of processing loans, and then grew up and was offered the opportunity to do loans and help people. And I just haven't looked back. It's just been a great career for me.
Well, it's been, seeing your conversion, or hearing about the conversion story, just taking the yen to dollar, and having that guy, your old boss, right, show the potential that he saw in you. That's grown into where we are today, Premier Mortgage. And so tell us about Premier. Where are you guys, and how much volume do you guys do in Idaho?
Yeah, so again, Premier was an opportunity that was created and presented to my husband to buy Premier in 2015. I just feel like I have a lot of gratitude for the opportunity that we've been presented. to own a company and build on a company and just have such abundance in that there's always more. So when we started at Premier, we were a pretty small company. We had a handful of employees, I think maybe less than 80 employees or something like that. And we've grown to 400 plus employees. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's all over, I mean, here in Idaho or?
No, good question. So I think I'm licensed in almost 30 plus states now because I'm the qualified individual for the company. So I'm licensed in a lot of states, even though, 95% of my clients are in Idaho, but, people do move or buy second homes. So it's nice to be able to serve our clients that move or buy second homes or investments. But, so we are licensed. We're working on 40 plus states right now. Our goal by the end of the year is to be licensed in all the states, New York pending because they take about a year. But at any rate, that's our goal. And we have, I think, it's a moving target, but I think we're at 70 plus locations right now as well. And just being able to serve more homeowners and grow and we're servicing over $1 billion in loans right now, so we take those payments from those clients, and so we've just really grown and just feel super blessed and grateful for those that have had faith in us, whether it was our customers, our agent partners, or the loan officers that in my world as a leader at the company, I just like take your this traditional pyramid of a company with your CEO at the top, right?
Yeah.
And we just say turn that upside down, and the CEO and everybody that's in leadership serves the loan officers who ultimately serve our clients. And so we really look at it as if you are a leader, you're in a service function at our company. That's how we've grown.
I love that.
I do too.
I love that. Okay, so one thing that you wish you knew before you started this career, because obviously, I mean, we just talked about the success of Premier Mortgage, right? But I'm sure that there was some hardships along the way, some learning curves. What was one thing you wish you knew before you started?
I wish I knew that the market was going to crash, so I'd had gazillions of dollars, so I could have bought a lot of homes.
So
I don't know.
You had a crystal ball.
I wish I've ordered it from Amazon. It just hasn't gotten here yet. I don't know if you've gotten yours, but I don't know.
I heard it has low reviews anyway.
It's lost in transit. Maybe an 8 ball. I don't know. Anyways, I wish I understood the mortgage business a little bit more before the crash. I think I took it for granted. I think I took my job for granted. And that was a whole new cup of humility that I got handed to me in 2011 when the average home, I think the average loan amount that then in Idaho was $105,000. So that's when I ended up branching out and getting licensed in more states because it's hard to make a living when I have 2 little kids, and I was recently divorced, and I had 2 little kids, 2 and 6, and they really depended on their mom to make things happen. And that was probably the hardest time I've had in my career is that reset. But that's how Team Mandi came to be too, because after the crash, I think, and not to dig on big banks, I'm not doing that, but I think the consumers were kind of like, well, the big banks didn't take care of the consumer. They didn't take care of the people that had the loans. I want to get belly to belly and talk to somebody and feel connected to somebody that cares about me and my family. And so I was going to name my team like something generic, right? Like awesome team, whatever, right? And I ended up just naming it, giving it my own name because people could connect with me, and they understood that, and they understood that anybody on my team was just one part of who I am, and they and the team members that I brought on, they grew up in the business the same way as me. They started at a front desk. They learned all the paperwork part first. They didn't start as salespeople, right? And so they care about clients, and they know how to look at documents. And so after the crash, my cup runneth over with humility and gratitude for any opportunity that was presented, and a mindset that everything is abundant and not to live in scarcity, you know, love or fear, right? Just pick love every time. And so Team Mandi was built on that thought process, is that if we just love people around us and are grateful for all the opportunities we present, more opportunities have presented. And that's, to this day, that's where I live. And so, you know, so you asked about the dark points. I just, that it's there with me always, but I don't live there, but I'm grateful for being there, because I think I wouldn't be who I am had I not had that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I love how you said, to this day, that's how you work. I actually use you guys, for my home loan when I moved here.
Yeah.
And from the moment, because I also use Greg to purchase my own, but the moment that Go Idaho team sent me over to you guys, my wife and I it literally felt like you guys were only working for us. Oh. It was weird. Like, I was like, because our other mortgage that we had in Southern California, they were rough. We had problems with them. It was just like, and they were huge, like you guys are huge, but they weren't working on that. It's still about that person, right? Mm-hmm. And we felt that immediately. It was awesome. It was good. It was really cool.
Good. So, well, I'm glad we got it done for you. That's good.
Yes, yeah, and we're happy we're here for sure.
Buying a house is kind of stressful, right?
It is.
I mean,
man.
it's
not
dirty, packing up and moving and all the things.
And then going to a new state too,
yes.
which a lot of the people that you're working with are doing that. So that's a huge part of just, okay, I felt comfortable, you know, and yeah, it was awesome.
No, I mean, it's
testimony.
I mean, there is so much going on in the industry right now. I mean, we've noticed a lot of uptick in people racing because they're hearing feds are going to increase the rate. So for the average listener who maybe doesn't track it but they just hear on the news, rates are increasing, the Fed just raised. What does that mean for like a mortgage? Does that mean whatever they said they're raising, that's what the new mortgage rate is?
Yeah,
or?
Good question. So what the feds are raising is the bank rate. So what banks can borrow money at. That's what's being raised. And really what's increasing is the variable rate. So your credit cards are tied to a variable rate. Your home equity lines of credit, they're a variable rate. So the Fed fund rate is what's being increased. So these banks can't borrow money basically at zero or whatever it was when we first started this. But this all came about, in my opinion, I'll preface it with my opinion because I'm not an economist, but I think it was a perfect storm, right? Mm-hmm. We had a pandemic, which has never happened.
Which wasn't that just nuts? Like, I kind of felt like that was going to crash our market.
I did too, right? Everybody did. We didn't. Right. We had no concept of. We thought if everybody has to stay home, nobody's going to do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But everybody got pretty bored at home, and thank God for the internet. I mean, I guess if we had no internet, things would have been a little bit different, right? But so we had that, which caused remote workers, right? Mm-hmm. We instantly, companies that were not at all remote became remote workers. Mm-hmm. And so that for Idaho was good. And why that was good for Idaho is over the years I've been here, we're really a service town, really. You think about it, we don't have a big, the only big employer left here in my opinion, was really Micron. Mm-hmm. We have J.R. Simplot, but for higher level income earning jobs, there wasn't a lot of big manufacturers or like, Simi Valley, right? You have all the big companies down there that are hiring these executive level positions. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened during pandemic is people were looking for quality of life, right? Yeah. They were like, oh my gosh, where do I really want to be? What's important to my family? I mean, the idea that I could lose my family member to this, disease that could take them and I won't know, it could be me, it made people really evaluate their life, I think. And so you had that happen, and then the remote workers, so then the remote workers could move. Mm-hmm. And so they brought those mid-level executive jobs to Idaho, which is wild, right? So we had that. The government stopped buying mortgage-backed securities. So after the crash, they started buying mortgage-backed securities to help the market get better, right, and recover. And they stopped doing that. So between that, so it's a supply and demand, right? The government's a big buyer.
Right.
And that buyer just went away. So now you're talking about just private industry buying mortgage-backed securities, which is a whole different conversation. But so you have remote workers buying in new cities. You have, which are driving prices up. Competition's higher. You have the mortgage-backed securities stop being purchased. So now rates are like, you don't have as many buyers of mortgages, right? So so if you have less buyers, you want to entice them with higher interest rates to buy those mortgages, right? And we flooded the market with trillions of dollars, right? All of the stimulus packages, right? So everyone that had ever wanted to buy anything had extra money to buy for the most part, right? Everybody had a little bit of extra money to buy things. Those that were really impacted by the market needed it to make their payments on rent and food and things like that. But others that were not as impacted had extra disposable income. So now we were consuming goods like crazy, right? And those goods became scarce, right? Our shelves in our supermarkets and all the things, right? So then we have need for jobs because now we need more goods. So it's just like this cyclical perfect storm. And now we're coming out of that storm and rates are having to increase because prices of everything went up, right? And they're not going to take their foot really off the gas of that interest rate increase and what banks can borrow money at until they know that things are back in check in America. And our economy is more level than, So is a mortgage rate tied to what the banks can borrow money at? No, because that's a mortgage-backed security versus the, Fed fund rate. But it does track it. If the Fed fund rate's going up, mortgages are usually going up as well. So have we hit the pinnacle of mortgages rates? Again, my Amazon crystal ball is still with Amazon. I don't know. Sorry, Amazon. Just teasing. You don't sell crystal balls, but whatever. I think we're kind of there because everybody's feeling a little stretched. But anytime there's good news like today in the market, they said there's more jobs, right? More jobs. They expected 208,000 jobs to be created in the month of September. It was closer to 240,000 jobs. So they're saying, well, we haven't slowed the economy enough because we're still hiring employees, right? So those are all things that even just your basic consumer can look at and say, when there's still good news, sadly, that's not good for interest rates. But what I think, I go back to saying I love homeownership and the security and safety that homeownership provides. I've seen clients that rent that they have no control over what their next level of rent is going to be, right? I look at rent as a variable expense. It's only fixed as long as the lease is, right? Right. So if I give you a lease and I say, Greg, your lease for the next 6 months is $2,000. And in 6 months, I raise it to $3,000. What are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do for your family? And so that's a variable expense. So in my mind, the good news about higher rates for those buyers on the fence right now, here's the good news. I think a lot of people were sidelined. Well, there was crazy offers over asking price, right? Craziness. There was buyers that were sidelined that didn't have those 20% down payments and couldn't get into a house, right? And compete with, hey, I can pay $50,000 over asking, right? That isn't a thing right now. It is an absolute, in my opinion, it's more of a buyer's market. Sellers are offering seller concessions towards closing costs, and builders are offering those things to incentivize buyers to be enticed, to kind of come look at their properties. And so, and you're not in a highest and best situation where you're having to make the highest and best offer you can and really take out of your savings account to buy that house. So you're buying maybe the house you want at a level less than what you would have bought in that pandemic high crazy buying process, right? And you might be paying a higher rate, but guess what? If rates go down, and if I want to bet so bad that rates are going to come down in 23. We're going into election year in 24, so I kind of see that. So let's say you lock. I don't know. Rates are in this say sixes today, right? So let's say you lock in the 6s. Well, what if rates drop into 5s and you save $300 a month on your payment?
Yeah.
Right? So you can refinance. Where that customer that bought they paid $50,000 more, you didn't pay that $50,000 over asking. And how long, the cost of money, right? So you can look at, bummer, I missed out on interest rates. Or you can look at it and say, I'm getting a good deal because now I've got a seller that's engaged with me that wants to help me with my closing costs. I don't have to have a crazy amount of money down because the sellers are not as particular about it, say a first-time home buyer or an FHA loan or a down payment assistance function, or a veteran that really wants to get in a home, because I think that was there's stigmas about that loan, which there shouldn't be, but or contingent offers. Right? So I think your sellers are more willing to look at all those things. So this market is a lot better for buyers.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And Channel 7 came down to the office to talk to me about the interest rate rise, their announcement. And we kind of talked about just like what's better, lower price or a rate buy down.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that? Like, because right now sellers are, just like you said, they're offering concessions. Hey, we want to be the most attractive house, so we're giving this.
Right.
So what is the big difference between, because I would think, well, I want $30,000 off my mortgage, but I don't know if that's the right play.
So easy math for right now, probably, and you're going to want to consult your mortgage advisor and all the things if you're listening to this, but it's about $80 per every $10,000 you borrow. So in that scenario, and it depends on loan. It might be 75, it might be 85, but let's just use 80 as our example. If you say pay $30,000 less for a property, that saves you $240 in your mortgage, right? Because you're borrowing $30,000 less. Well, if you took that same $30,000 and bought your rate down into the 5s today, you might save $600 on your mortgage payment. So everybody needs to look at it for what their long-term gain is. But to me, it's like, what's most important to you today, right? How long are you going to own the home? Is mortgage payment most important to you, because that really today is most important to your family. And the other thing is there's opportunities for 2-1 buy downs. So like if the rate today is 7%, the first year you could buy that rate down to 5. 5, then the next year 6, then the subsequent years are 7. But the cool part about that is if a seller's willing to do that and help you buy that rate down just for a temporary buy down, you have an opportunity to get to a point where you could refinance it in the future. Or maybe you're not going to pay childcare anymore next year because your kiddo's going to kindergarten or something like that, right? So then you can afford a little bit more in a house payment next year, where this year's the grind and this year's the squeeze. Or maybe you have a spouse finishing college and they're going to go into the workforce, something like that, right? So you're going to have more disposable income, but getting in a home now is what's important to you.
I've heard you say this many a times, and you always say, you fall in love with the home, not the mortgage rate or the interest rate.
Marry the home, not the
interest rate.
Rent the rate. I call it marry the home and rent the rate, because whatever, date the rate. Yeah, marry the home, date the rate, right? Because the rate. Yeah, most of us, the statistics are like cuckoo as far as how often we end up getting mortgages. They used to be every 7 years. I would gleam to say that it's less than that now, is that we're getting mortgage. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a mortgage sooner than 7 years,
Right.
So,
I have.
And if you think of the last 14 years, how many times have you done a home loan? It's a lot more than twice, I think, for all of us at this table. So marry the house, date the rate. I think that's a perfect saying.
Okay, I got something here. What is one myth about the industry you want to debunk?
That we wake up with a paycheck, any of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that we do. Lenders all over. Maybe if they work for a bank, great. Maybe they get a base salary, something like that. But for us, for my team, unless we do a good job and close your home loan, we don't get paid. And that's true of most agents that you work with too.
But that inspires you guys to do a better job.
Absolutely.
Then, I think.
Absolutely. My whole career, 35% of the clients we serve are all from database referrals and past clients. So we have to do a good job for those people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a misnomer. I think that people think, well, it won't matter if I don't use Mandi. I can just go get, whatever bank.
Yeah,
I can get if I can get an 8th Lauren rate, I'm going to go use whoever online, right? No, it makes a difference to me. It makes a difference to my family, and it makes, so I think that's a misnomer. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think so.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are some key people who have been influential in not only your life, but like this career? Like, is there anybody that stands out? You're like, oh my gosh, without this person, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, there's, and that kind of goes to the heart of the matter for me, because my husband is also in the mortgage industry, and he's been just such an awesome mentor in my life. And he's really taught me the idea of abundance versus scarcity, and globally looking at things versus looking at it under a microscope. Sometimes people do that, right? They look at things under a microscope, and
not even on purpose, you just do it.
Yeah. And I'm kind of that, I'm born in September, Virgo temperament, right? Things just need to be in their place. And sometimes life's messy and things don't look like that. And so it's taught me to show grace to myself. And so he's been instrumental in just who I am as a person, not only as just a partner in my life to help me advance in my career and just love me on my good days and my bad days, and just be a good co-parent with me. Those are really, I couldn't do what I do and just run as fast as I can if I didn't have an awesome partner in my life.
Sure.
But in the mortgage business, there's 2 other people I would say that have been super critical in my business and just who I am and my knowledge depth. Daryl Chalker, I met him when I was very young in the business, and he just had a wealth of knowledge and just integrity and character, and he just taught me that good people, if they do a good job and have, they can succeed, right? I think sometimes people think that they need to be shady or do things and to advance in any career, and he just taught me that is not the case. You can just be really good human and advance and succeed in life. And so Daryl was really imperative in my, an imperative person in my life that taught me those things. And then Erin Davison, she's passed away, but she was I was with her for 25 years from the time I was a kid and in the business, and she taught me explanation is not documentation. So what that means is I'd have a client come in and they're like, so this is this and that is that, and I'm like, I need proof of how we got there, right? I sold my boat and blah 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 blah. I put the money in the bank, right? And she's like, that's a nice explanation, Mandi. I need to know how we, where's the documentation? And I learned so much from her about the industry and how to look at loans and how to help more clients. And so she was instrumental in just my depth of the knowledge I got in the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
that's awesome. We talked a lot. We talked earlier. We brought up just the fact that it's our passion is home ownership, but there are a lot of people throughout the state of Idaho listening to this who are renting or who have never, their first time. They want to qualify for a home. They're not. It's kind of intimidating, right?
I agree with you.
So for a first-time home buyer, how does Team Mandi make that process less intimidating?
Yeah, I think that what I'd say is just jump in the deep in the pool. Just jump in. Just jump in. If you've got somebody, we look at ourselves as coaches or advisors, right? And maybe somebody's not ready to buy today, but they want to look at what it might look like in 6 months or a year from now. And they have the dream of homeownership, and they're like, I can't buy a house. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people that says, I cannot buy a home. They can. It's crazy. And those are the ones that are really rewarding, right? So it's a fairly easy step. I would tell people, Go to somebody that you trust. Go to somebody that'll walk you through the process. There's lots of ways to do that anymore. An online mobile app. In 15 minutes, you can apply for a mortgage. But having the knowledge behind that to review your credit and talk to you about maybe ways to get your credit up. Maybe you're scared because you're like, oh, I've had some bad things happen to me, and
almost like that they kind of feel like you're judging them, which is so false.
Okay, so I equate it to like my OBGYN, right? I'm sure they're not judging me when I go to the OBGYN. Well, I am not judging credit anymore either, right? When I was new in the business, I was learning, not judging, learning.
Right.
And now, trust me, in 27 years of lending, I've probably seen every kind of credit report you can possibly think of. And so I come from it as a hey, this is where we're at and this is where we want to go. And just whether that person wants to do the legwork to get them there is really the gig, right? I mean, just do you want to put the work in?
Well, how soon? Because some people say, or I talk to people and they're like, well, I'm probably like 9 months out, so I don't want to talk to a lender right now. I mean, is there a point where it's too soon to reach out to someone?
That's a good question.
Or can they?
So I would say this. So your credit report in itself, for most mortgage companies, for Premier, that's what it is 4 months. So from the time we pull it, it's kind of a 4-month gig. And after 4 months, we have to pull it again. It's not a big deal.
It doesn't kill your credit score if you
No,
have.
I mean, unless you're going everywhere around town and having it pulled everywhere, and you went and got your car loan and you looked at 27 places, that's when you're talking about tanking your credit by having it reviewed and reviewed and reviewed. But with that said, if you're 9 months out, I still think it's a good time to talk about payments. Where do they want to be on their payment range? Where do you want to be in Idaho? If you're coming here, where do you want to be? What feels good to you? What feels right? I mean, there's so many beautiful places in Idaho, and what feels good to you. And then on the lending side, we would look at it and say, do you have a home to sell? Do you really want to sell that home? Are you going to rent that home? Do you want to take some of the equity from that home and put it into your new home here? What is your ultimate goal? How long are you going to live in that house? Is it like, I'm going to be there for 3 years and then we expand our family, or I'm going to be an empty nester and I'm only going to be there? So I think for us as the lender on that side, at 9 months, we want to talk to folks. We want to talk about their goals, right? What's your end goal? Are you going to, if you're 3 years from retirement and you're like, I'm going to sell this house and I'm going to go buy a condo and then I'm going to have a second home here. Then let's look at an option for you that looks like that. Or maybe you just need some ideas of, hey, I have a job here and I'm working every day in this state or farther away from where I want to live. And, do I want to buy a second home, or do I want to buy an investment property here and maybe Airbnb it so I can make money on it until I do retire in Idaho, because that's my ultimate goal, and I hear that a lot too. So I don't think it's ever too premature to start just planning. Now, as a lender, I would say I think at 9 months, I would love to talk to a customer about just like what their goals are, right?
Right.
But then when they think they're close, and sometimes people's 9-month plan becomes a 2-month plan,
right?
Yeah, that was us.
Yeah, that was.
We became like a 1-month plan.
Get up here.
So that 9-month preparation, you start talking about those things, and you thought what wasn't doable is now doable.
That's exactly what it was for us.
So I just never think it's too early to be prepared, right? It's just a preparing conversation at 9 months. At 4 months, you're like, okay. And within, if you really want your process to go very smoothly, we like to approve to be determined properties. So you're not even, we're just approving the customer, not the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we'd like to talk to them earlier so that we can get a lot of the stuff, like Ken said, the stuff that drives you crazy from a lender, like I like another pay stub, I like a bank statement, I like your second born. Oh no, we don't want your first or second born. But anyway,
Third born maybe.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. No. Well, they could come to work, I guess. But anyway, I think that for that reason, at that point I'd say, let's take an application, and it doesn't cost anything. It's just your time, right? It doesn't cost them anything to have the conversation. It just is time. We're not charging them.
Well, and then the thing that that changed our minds on moving times and stuff was when we talked to you guys, we weren't sure. Okay, you read stuff on the internet. You're like, oh, I'm gonna this, and then you talk to somebody who's a local lender, and they're like, oh, no. That's not how it works. This is actually what this means. This is what it gets. And so to us, it was like, there was like 2 or 3 things that we're like completely confused on, because we think we know because we read it on the internet. But then you talk to a local lender and you're like, in Idaho, that's not how this works. This is how it works. You could easily get this, and this. And I'm like, oh, okay then. Well, when do you want to move? Let's go.
Let's go.
So local lenders. I mean, that's like one of the things on our list here to talk about. Like, how important is that to have a local lender, do you think?
Well, it's, at least if it was me, I think I'd like to talk to anybody that wants a home loan, but we are an Idaho company, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're based in Idaho. We're ran by a team that most of us were born in Idaho. We have our underwriting team right here in Idaho for the most part, our leadership of underwriting, which is a big deal because they're the ones that actually put their name on that application that you submit and to approve you for the money that you need to get the house, and the closing team. And just for example, we have a group of leaders that meet every day at 2:00, and if we have a customer that has a really hard scenario, that doesn't linger for those clients. It gets an answer at 2:00 every day. Versus maybe if you work with a big company, they're disconnected. They don't have that for customers, right? And so I think that there's more to getting a mortgage than just, hey, what's the rate online? And I think that that's a misnomer of our business too. Like, hey, what's that rate? Well, it might be that rate, but you might be paying lots of money to get that rate. So I think that it's just an interesting thing. You get a hangnail and you go online and you find out you're dying because you Googled it, right?
Yeah.
So same thing about mortgage rates.
Good old WebMD.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just like, okay. So yeah, it's the biggest investment most people make in their entire life. And to me, it seems like you'd want somebody that could take care of you and would care about your family and maybe not be clinical about it and be online and just be a digital presence for you. To me, that's worth something.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, I want to piggyback off of our discussion about just qualifying for a loan, if you don't mind. Do you guys mind if I do?
No, I don't mind.
The only thing I mind is you saying I want to piggyback off it. That's one phrase that drives me bonkers for some reason.
Well,
I don't know why.
Well,
but let's move on.
All right, strike that word.
Horseback ride. I don't know.
What?
Piggyback. I don't know why.
Spec ride?
You
Piggyback ride?
feel like you're stereotyping pigs or what?
I don't know. It's just a term that drives me crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I heard it. I'm like, oh, he didn't just.
We can circle back or something, right? I think the press secretary has been saying
Circle
that a
back.
lot, circling back. So we can
Let's
circle back.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's circle back.
Let's circle back.
Let's circle back because ton of questions around self-employment. Getting a loan if you're self-employed just seems like the hardest thing in the world. Break it down for us.
Yes, so I do. I think that seems pretty frightening, especially to and the crazy part is self-employed business owners usually pretty savvy. They started a business. They're running it successfully.
Yeah, that's true.
But then, I think it's just the difference between what I make and what my deductions are, and then what I look at as a net after. And all lenders can use is what you paid taxes on to the IRS.
Right. So
it's that simple.
So if Ken, because you'll probably try and take every deduction possible,
Well,
right?
yeah.
That's gonna hurt him in the end, right? Because you're not gonna qualify, even though you make a couple $100,000, but you're only showing a $30,000 gain, or pay tax on $30,000. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers.
Is my phone ringing? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is that me? I think that's me. I'm sorry.
No,
It's okay.
They're already calling in.
I know.
And be like, man,
Sorry if you.
Well, it's not a live show, so it didn't.
We don't have any callers on right now.
No, let me check. No callers on.
No callers on right now. Okay.
We actually do have a call line, and that'll be something in the future. So maybe listen to
if it is a client and they got voicemail, I leave it on there to say call my team and here's the phone number, so they'll be taken care of. So okay. Go back, circle back again.
Okay.
Not piggyback, but circle back. Okay.
Okay. So we were talking about the tax write-offs,
Oh, yes.
right? As a business owner, you try and take every deduction, but that's going to hurt in the long run. And so how many years does someone have to show like a good, bite the bullet, pay the taxes?
So, okay, good question. So, a couple things. So, there's a kind of a misnomer that you have to be self-employed and have 2 years tax returns to get a home loan if you are a self-employed business owner. There's a misnomer about that because that's changed in recent years. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's take an electrician.
Okay.
Mr. Electrician works for ABC Electrical and he's a W-2 employee. Mm-hmm. And then he starts his business and he's like, I can do this and I want to have my own business and I'm going to start my company. And he starts his company and he does it all of 2022.
Same line of work?
Same line of work.
Oh.
So he went from being an electrician, W-2, to being self-employed electrician. And he's going to file this year's taxes. As soon as that person files their 2022 taxes, mm-hmm. we can help them get a home loan because they have verifiable income that they've filed with the third party, which is the IRS, right? So if they went and they were selling tacos and then became a electrician self-employed, that's when the question comes into play. Gotcha. And that, then you need to dig deeper with your lender.
Gotcha.
But if they're in a similar role, or maybe they were in college, they started their own business, it's running successfully, they have 1 year tax returns, that's a viable option to get a home loan. But back to your question of how much to write off, the thing is we get to look at the bottom line number, and then we get to add depreciation. So if you bought, if you have big trucks or something like that, and you're writing that off, or mileage, that's another thing that we get to add, a little bit back for that. So those are things we can add back into the equation.
Okay.
Because we have some people that have, a lot of farming equipment or something like that, and they're self-employed, so they have a large depreciation. Then in that instance, even though their bottom line showed not very much, they can add that back.
Gotcha. Case by case basis.
Yeah, I think that it is one thing they want to look at, but the beautiful part is too, is in the last few years, what's called non-QM, non-qualified mortgage. After the crash, all mortgages basically became qualified mortgages and had to meet a strict guideline. And that's still most of the industry, honestly. But over here, there's this kind of private industry coming up that wants and believes in some mortgage loans and has guidelines associated with that. And those loans fall under the, hey, I can do they don't file as much on their tax returns, but there's deposits going into their bank account, to their business bank account. They're still running their businesses accordingly. And there you can get 12 months of business bank statements and qualify on that mortgage. So you qualify for a mortgage based on the deposits or percentage of those deposits. And that's a non-qualified mortgage. Now they're going to pay a higher interest rate, but you also didn't pay tax on the money. So it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
So there's options for self-employed, but yeah, I think there's some misnomers about that.
Totally.
All right. Well, that's all crazy interesting to me because I'm not a mortgage guy. I don't sell homes. I make YouTube videos and help Greg with all this. So to me, I'm like, I just learned a ton.
There's kids everywhere that want to grow up and be like you.
I know. Why would they want to be like me?
You
mean they want to be a YouTuber?
When I was growing up, I want to be like Mike. No, I want to be like Ken.
They want to be like a YouTuber, popular YouTuber.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if I qualify as that though.
Come on, man.
It's gonna happen in Idaho. It definitely is happening.
Okay.
Go Idaho.
All right, Go Idaho. That's right. All right, now it's time to have some fun.
Okay.
Are you ready to have some fun?
Absolutely, all the time.
Okay. So,
what do you got?
We are going to do some rapid fire questions.
Oh, Lord.
And you just have to they're going to be like this or that type of questions, right?
Okay.
Well, actually, we'll start with this will be the first question.
Okay.
All right. Idaho, your favorite restaurant in Idaho?
Today,
yes.
Because it varies. But today, I'd say Wild West and Eagle. They serve like authentic Italian food. The owners are from Italy.
Wild West.
Where?
I don't even know where this is.
Yes, they serve coffee. My husband loves coffee too.
Yeah,
and they own Cafe d'Arte or whatever the brand.
Okay.
Anyway, they make those cute cappuccinos in the morning with the leaf in it. But on Friday and Saturday nights, only Friday and Saturday nights, my son dies for their spaghetti, and they have awesome
is this
lasagna.
the one in downtown Eagle?
Yeah.
I have seen it, and it's so funny because my wife and I were actually looking at it. She goes, but it's only open like 2 days for the Italian food. And I was like, what?
Yeah, they don't let anybody that's not family back in the kitchen because it's all like family recipes and.
Serious?
That reminds me of have you seen the movie Return to Me? With
Yes.
Minnie Driver?
Yes.
The family
one of my favorites.
owns the Italian
one of my
recipe.
favorites.
It's a great movie. Sorry, I like romantic movies.
Yes.
Romantic comedies are great. But that family, that's what it makes me think of. That whole family thing. Okay, next question. Favorite place to vacation in Idaho?
Ooh. Well, we have a place in Pine, Idaho. I kind of want to keep it a secret, so maybe I should pick somewhere else. But anyway, so Pine, Anderson Reservoir is there, and my family just loves it. If you love snowmobiling or you love ATV riding, there's hot springs there, so that's cool.
The reservoir, probably fishing.
Yes, lots of fly fishing, just like bass, salmon. They go to their spawn, so that's kind of fishing too, and boating. Right, my kids think that we need to have a boat. My husband keeps saying we do not need to have a boat, but they're really working on it, so we'll see. But yes, Pine, Idaho, it's our go-to. It's it's got 2 restaurants between Pine and Featherville. It's got 1 grocery store. It's great to decompress, get out of town, and just get away from the white noise of everything.
Yep. Yes, awesome. Okay, now we're gonna get super rapid fire.
Okay,
here we go.
Okay,
Italian food or Chinese food?
Italian.
Mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Yeah. Burgers or tacos?
Tacos every day.
Summer or winter?
Ooh, summer.
Ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup. Depends on what I'm eating.
Yeah, that's true. But you got to pick one.
Okay,
so
ketchup.
Going ketchup. Okay. Air guitar or air drums?
Guitar.
Ooh.
And can you give us a sample of your air guitar skills?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. We had one person on here. They're like, no, I'm a bass guitar guy.
Oh, that's funny.
Kind of the cool, air guitar. Okay. But you went straight like lead guitar.
Oh, yeah,
like
I just want to, let's get into
rock
it.
and roll.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Vacation or staycation?
Oh, vacation.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Watch sports or play sports?
Oh, watch. Better cheerleader every day. Every day.
All right. Well, that was fun. So Greg, back to you.
Well, thanks so much. And Mandi, thank you so much for carving out some time. How can people get in touch with you if they're like, I'm in?
Oh, well, you can call my cell phone, 208-250-2775. You can text me, or you can just go to my website, Team Mandi, Mandi with an I, MANDI.com, teammandi.com, and you can meet my whole team. I couldn't do it without them. I'm just one piece of Team Mandi. I'm blessed to have really amazing humans I get to show up for every day, and I come to work for we, not me, and that works for me really well. So anyways, teammandi.com, or you can call my cell or my office, 208-608-5888.
Yeah,
awesome.
If you're watching on YouTube, all the links will be down in the description. If you're just listening on the podcast, obviously everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Well, awesome, Mandi. Thank you so much. 2023 sounds like it's going to be amazing for you and Premiere. So
I'm excited. Thank you so much.